The prisoner's tale. The fluorescent lights of the O-base's interrogation chamber buzzed with an irritating persistence as Commander Varric stared at the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy, a human who couldn't even fit properly in their chairs. The irony wasn't lost on him. "Let's start from the beginning," Varric said, his crystalline appendages clicking against the metal table. "How did you end up here?" The human, who had only identified himself as Marcus, shifted uncomfortably in the reinforced seat. Captain Lizra, perched on the corner of the table, watched the exchange with her characteristic analytical gaze. She had vouched for this creature, a decision that could either save or doom their civilization. "Your people found me in the Yen system," Marcus began, his voice carrying the weight of someone who had told this story too many times. "But that's not what you really want to know, is it? You want to know why I'm the only human you've ever encountered, and why your intelligence suggests that humanity was wiped out centuries ago." Varric's outer membrane rippled, the equivalent of a human-raised eyebrow. "Continue." "Humanity wasn't destroyed," Marcus said, leaning forward. "We chose to disappear." The statement hung in the air like a suspended particle of dust. Lizra's antennae twitched, her species' indication of intense interest. "That's impossible," General Cax interjected from the corner of the room. "Our historical records show the complete destruction of the human fleet in the Battle of Yen. We lost thousands of our own ships in that engagement." Marcus smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Tell me, General, did you ever recover any human bodies? Any significant debris from our ships? Or did everything just vanish?" The silence that followed was deafening. "We discovered something during the early days of our space exploration," Marcus continued. "Something that made traditional faster-than-light travel obsolete. We found a way to access parallel versions of Earth." Lizra hopped down from the table and began pacing, her scientific mind already racing with the implications. "The multiverse theory. But that's just theoretical physics. For you, maybe." Marcus gestured to the computer terminal in front of him. "May I?" Commander Varric nodded, and Marcus began typing. Holographic displays flickered to life, showing complex mathematical equations and diagrams that made even the most educated officers in the room feel like novices. "Humanity faced a choice," Marcus explained as he worked. "We could spend centuries trying to terraform hostile planets, or we could find versions of Earth that were already perfect for human life. Why colonize Mars when you could access an Earth where humans never evolved, or where different geological events created more landmass?" The implications were staggering. The O-base's senior staff watched in silence as Marcus pulled up more data, showing the theoretical framework behind humanity's greatest achievement, and their greatest deception. "The Battle of Yen wasn't a battle at all," Marcus revealed. "It was an evacuation. Those weren't weapons you saw destroying our ships. They were gateway generators, creating temporary bridges between universes. Every human vessel you thought you destroyed simply slipped into a different reality." Commander Varric's crystalline structure clouded, a sign of deep disturbance. "If what you're saying is true, why are you here? Why reveal this now?" Marcus's expression darkened. "Because something's coming. Something that doesn't care about universal boundaries. And humanity's solution to space travel might have accidentally opened the door for it." The room temperature seemed to drop several degrees as Marcus pulled up one final image, an astronomical reading from the edge of known space. The pattern it showed was impossible, a violation of every known law of physics. "This," Marcus said, pointing to the anomaly, "is what happens when the walls between universes start to break down. Humanity didn't just find a way to travel between parallel Earths, we found out we weren't the first species to do so. And the others, they've noticed our activity." Lizra chittered nervously. "The recent gravitational anomalies in the outer systems are just the beginning," Marcus finished. "I'm here because humanity needs allies. The O Collective has the most advanced sensor network in this galaxy. You've already detected the signs, even if you didn't know what they meant. What's coming isn't just a threat to humanity or the O Collective, it's a threat to reality itself. Commander Varric stood, his crystalline form catching the light in a prismatic display. You expect us to believe that humanity, a species we thought destroyed, has been hiding in parallel universes all this time. And now you want our help fighting some mysterious cosmic horror. Marcus's reply was cut short by a violent tremor that shook the entire base. Emergency lights flashed as alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Believe me or not, Marcus said grimly, but that's just a taste of what happens when universal boundaries start to fail. You're about to get a front row seat to why humanity chose to run and hide all those years ago. The computer terminals around them began displaying readings from the outer sensor network. The patterns were identical to the one Marcus had just shown them, impossible geometries forming in the fabric of spacetime itself. The legend of the human weapon was about to become very real, but not in the way anyone had expected. As another tremor rocked the base, Marcus met Commander Varric's gaze. Now, he said, shall we discuss that alliance? Echoes between worlds. The O base's command center was a hive of activity as holographic displays showed cascading anomalies spreading across multiple star systems. Commander Varric's crystalline form pulsed with rapid color changes, a sign of extreme stress that his species rarely displayed. 17 outposts have reported similar gravitational disturbances, Captain Lizra reported, her small form darting between computer terminals. The pattern matches what Marcus showed us, but the scale. She trailed off, mandibles clicking nervously. Marcus stood before the main display, his human frame casting a long shadow across the illuminated floor. They're testing the boundaries, he said quietly. Like pushing against a membrane to find its weakest points. General Cax demanded. You still haven't explained who or what they are. Marcus turned to face the assembled O collective leadership. We called them the Void Swimmers. That's the closest translation in your language. Think of reality as an ocean, and different universes as separate depths. These beings. They live in the spaces between, in the currents that connect different realities. The room's temperature control systems struggled to keep up with the heat generated by the increasingly active computer systems. Another tremor shook the base, weaker than the first but lasting longer. When humanity first developed our universe-jumping technology, we thought we were pioneers, Marcus continued. But we were like children playing with matches, creating tiny fires that attracted the attention of something ancient and hungry. Lieutenant Commander Pax, the base's chief scientist, stepped forward. Her crystalline form was oriented in the configuration that indicated deep thought. The mathematical models you provided, they suggest these entities exist in dimensions beyond our comprehension. Yes, Marcus confirmed. And that's what makes them so dangerous. They don't want to conquer or destroy, they simply exist in a way that's incompatible with our reality. Every time they push against the boundaries between universes, they weaken the fundamental forces that keep our dimension stable. Captain Lizra pulled up a new set of readings. These energy signatures, they're similar to what we detected during the Battle of Yen, but inverted somehow. Because we were pushing out, Marcus explained. Creating controlled tiers in reality to slip through. These disturbances. They're pushing in. Commander Varric's form stabilized into a deep blue hue, a sign of decision. You said humanity needs allies. What exactly do you expect us to do against entities that exist beyond our dimensional understanding? Marcus smiled grimly. The same thing humanity has been doing for the past century, build barriers. Your species has developed technologies that we never managed to replicate. The crystalline computing cores your bodies evolved naturally. They're capable of processing dimensional mathematics that our best supercomputers couldn't handle. He walked to a terminal and began inputting calculations. Humanity has been maintaining a network of dimensional stabilizers across multiple universes, using our earth-jumping technology to create a web of protected realities. But the network is failing. The void swimmers are learning, adapting. They're finding ways through our defenses. And now you want to expand this network using our technology, Lizra concluded, her antennae twitching with excitement. That's why you let yourself be captured. You needed direct access to our computing capabilities. Not exactly, Marcus said. I needed to prove to your leadership that the threat was real. The capture was, unfortunate timing. I was actually on my way to make official first contact when your patrol found me. Another tremor rocked the base, stronger than the last. Warning lights flashed as new readings poured in from the sensor network. Multiple breaches detected in sectors 7 through 12, an officer reported. Sir, the readings suggest spatial distortions are beginning to affect our local spacetime. Marcus's expression hardened. They're here sooner than I expected. Commander, I need access to your quantum computing core. The calculations I gave you earlier? They're only part of the equation. With your processing power, we might be able to establish a temporary barrier before. His words were cut off by a sound that shouldn't have been possible in the vacuum of space, a deep, resonating tone that seemed to vibrate through reality itself. The holographic displays flickered, showing impossible geometries forming in the space around the base. By the first crystal, General Cax whispered. What are we seeing? The beginning, Marcus said grimly. Commander Varric, I need your answer now. The O Collective can stand alone and face what's coming, or we can work together. Humanity has been fighting this war in secret for a century, but we're losing ground. Your technology, combined with our experience, it might be our only chance. Commander Varric's crystalline form shifted through a rapid sequence of colors before settling on a brilliant white, the color of absolute certainty. Lieutenant Commander Pax, give Marcus access to the quantum core. Captain Lizra, begin evacuating non-essential personnel to our deep space facilities. General Cax, mobilize the fleet. If we're going to face an enemy from beyond reality itself, we do it with all the force we can muster. Marcus nodded in approval and turned to the main display, where the impossible geometries were beginning to take more definite form. Remember, he warned, what you're about to see, it's not meant to be processed by three-dimensional minds. Don't try to understand it. Just focus on the calculations. As if in response to his words, the space outside the base began to fold in ways that made the observer's mind scream in protest. The legend of the human weapon was about to be rewritten, not as a tale of destruction, but as humanity's desperate attempt to save reality itself. The war for existence was about to begin, and the O base was about to become the front line in a battle that would span multiple universes. The architecture of reality. The quantum computing core of the O base thrummed with energy as Marcus's fingers flew across the crystalline interface. Captain Lizra watched in fascination as complex dimensional equations materialized in the holographic display, each formula more mind-bending than the last. Your species evolved to think in quantum mathematics, Marcus said without looking up. Ours had to learn it the hard way. We spent decades trying to replicate what your brains do naturally. Lieutenant Commander Pax's crystalline form shimmered with intellectual curiosity. These equations, they're describing spacetime as if it were a fabric that can be folded and reinforced. Exactly, Marcus confirmed. Think of reality as a vast tapestry. The void swimmers are like moths eating through the material. We need to reinforce the weave before they create holes big enough to slip through completely. The base shuddered again, but this time it wasn't from an external tremor. The quantum core was drawing unprecedented amounts of power, causing fluctuations throughout the facility's systems. Warning, the base's AI announced. Power consumption approaching critical levels. Core temperature rising beyond recommended parameters. Commander Varric's form pulsed with concern. Can your calculations be completed before we lose power? They have to be, Marcus replied grimly. Because what's trying to come through, trust me, you don't want to see them materialize fully in our dimension. As if in response to his words, the main viewport showed a sight that defied comprehension. The space outside the base seemed to fold in on itself, creating patterns that hurt to look at directly. Several collective officers had to turn away, their crystalline forms clouding with distress. "Sir," an officer called out. "The fleet reports similar distortions appearing throughout the sector. General Cax requests immediate instructions." Commander Varric turned to Marcus. "What can our ships do against something like this?" "Your ship's crystalline cores," Marcus explained, still typing furiously. "They can act as nodes in the barrier network we're creating. Each ship needs to position itself at specific coordinates." He paused to transfer a set of calculations to the fleet command system. "The mathematics of their placement is crucial. We're not just creating a defensive line, we're weaving a multidimensional net." Captain Lizra's antennae twitched as she studied the deployment pattern. "These formations, they create some kind of resonance pattern?" "Yes," Marcus confirmed. "The crystalline cores will amplify the barrier effect. Each ship becomes a point of reinforcement in the fabric of spacetime itself. But timing is critical. If we don't activate the network before the void swimmers fully manifest." He didn't need to finish the sentence. The viewport showed more impossible geometries forming, and now they could see something moving within them. The movements weren't smooth or natural, they seemed to skip between points in space, as if the very concept of continuous motion was foreign to them. "Fleet in position," General Cax's voice came through the comm system. "Awaiting activation signal." Marcus input the final sequences into the quantum core. "When I activate this, every crystalline system in range is going to be part of the network. The strain on your ship's cores will be intense. Some might not survive the power surge." Commander Varric's form settled into the color of resolve. "Better to lose some ships than all of reality." "Do it." Marcus pressed his palm against the main crystal of the quantum core. "Captain Lizra, I need you to connect directly to the system. Your brain's quantum processing capability can help stabilize the initial surge." Lizra didn't hesitate. She scurried forward and placed her own appendage against the crystal. The effect was immediate, the holographic displays exploded with new layers of calculations as her natural quantum computing abilities merged with the system. "Everyone else, brace yourselves," Marcus warned. "This is going to get strange." He activated the network. The effect was both subtle and overwhelming. Every crystalline form in the base briefly glowed with an inner light. Through the viewport, they could see the same happening to the fleet, hundreds of ships lighting up like stars as their cores became part of something larger. The impossible geometries in space began to warp and twist, but now they were being contained, forced back by an invisible barrier that manifested as subtle distortions in the fabric of reality itself. The void swimmers' attempts to push through were met with resistance for the first time. But the victory came at a cost. Several ships in the fleet went dark, their cores burned out by the power demands. The base's systems fluctuated wildly as the quantum core channeled energies it was never designed to handle. "Network stabilizing," Lizra reported, her voice strained. "The barrier is holding, but Marcus, these readings, this is just the beginning, isn't it?" Marcus nodded grimly. "They'll adapt. They always do. This barrier buys us time, nothing more. We need to prepare for what comes next." "Which is?" Commander Varric asked. "We need to take the fight to them," Marcus said. "The barrier protects our reality, but as long as the void swimmers exist in the space between universes, they'll keep trying to break through. Humanity has been playing defense for a century. With your technology, we might finally be able to do what we never could before." "What's that?" Lieutenant Commander Pax asked. Marcus's expression was deadly serious. "Find their point of origin. The place where the membrane between realities is thinnest. And then, we seal it. Permanently." The implications of his words hung in the air as the crew watched the barrier hold against forces that shouldn't exist in their universe. The legend of the human weapon had evolved again, from a tale of destruction, to one of protection, and now to something even more ambitious, an attempt to reshape the very architecture of reality itself. But first, they had to survive what was coming next. Points of origin. The dimensional laboratory that had been hastily constructed in the heart of O Base hummed with energy as Marcus and Lieutenant Commander Pax worked on their most ambitious project yet. The walls were lined with crystalline processors, each one dedicated to mapping the complex topology of interuniversal space. Another anomaly detected in Sector 47, Captain Lizra reported from her monitoring station. Her small form was noticeably tired. She'd been interfacing with the quantum networks for days without rest. The barrier held, but power consumption spiked by 23% during the intrusion attempt. Marcus nodded grimly. They're probing systematically now. Learning the barrier's properties. He manipulated the holographic display, zooming out to show a map of detected incursion points. Look at the pattern they're forming. Commander Varric studied the display, his crystalline form shifting through analytical configurations. They're creating some kind of lattice. A resonance pattern, Lieutenant Commander Pax corrected, her own form glowing with the insight. Each attempted breach point is mathematically related to the others. They're trying to create a harmonic disruption in the barrier. Marcus's expression darkened. Just like they did with humanity's original defensive network. We have weeks at most before they find the right frequency to punch through. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The combined human-O collective barrier was holding for now, but it was only buying them time. And time was running out. Show me the latest deep space readings, Marcus requested, turning to a different console. The display shifted to show a complex graph of dimensional distortions detected at the edge of O collective space. Lieutenant Commander Pax moved closer, her crystalline form resonating with the data. These patterns, they're not random at all, are they? No, Marcus confirmed. When the void swimmers move through the space between universes, they leave traces, like ripples in water. We've been mapping these disturbances, trying to trace them back to their source. He input a series of commands, and the display transformed into a multidimensional model that made most observers' minds hurt to look at directly. Only Pax and Lizra seemed able to study it without discomfort, thanks to their species' natural quantum perception. This is incredible, Pax breathed. You can actually map the spaces between realities? Partially, Marcus said. Humanity's been working on this model for decades. But your crystalline computing technology, it's letting us see details we never could before. Look here. He highlighted a particular region of the model where the dimensional ripples seemed to converge. The pattern was subtle but unmistakable, all paths led to a single point in the void between universes. That's their point of origin? Commander Varric asked, his form pulsing with both hope and apprehension. We think so. But reaching it. Marcus trailed off, running a hand through his hair, a human gesture of frustration that his alien colleagues had come to recognize. It's not just a matter of traveling through space. We need to move through the dimensional membrane itself. Like your species did during the Battle of Yen? Lizra asked. Marcus shook his head. This is different. When we jump between parallel Earths, we're moving between similar points in different realities. What we're talking about now is entering the space between realities itself. No human has ever survived that. But we might, Pax said quietly, her crystalline form shimming with excitement. Our bodies evolved to process quantum states naturally. In theory, we could maintain our coherence in interuniversal space. Exactly, Marcus confirmed. That's why I've been working with Pax to modify one of your ships. We're combining human phase shift technology with your crystalline architecture to create something new, a vessel that can safely traverse the void between universes. He pulled up the schematics for their prototype. The design was unlike anything either civilization had created before, a crystalline lattice reinforced with human dimensional stabilizers, powered by a hybrid core that combined both technologies. The Pathfinder, Pax announced proudly. First of her kind. Commander Varric studied the design with his species equivalent of a frown. The power requirements for such a vessel are enormous, Marcus finished. We'll need to divert power from the barrier network to fuel the initial phase shift. It will weaken our defenses temporarily. How temporarily? General Cax demanded, speaking up from his position near the door. He'd been so quiet, they'd almost forgotten he was there. 17 minutes, Lizra calculated quickly. That's how long the barrier can operate at reduced power before the harmonics destabilize completely. 17 minutes to find the origin point and seal it, Marcus summarized. While navigating through space that wasn't meant to support any form of life. The room fell silent again as they contemplated the magnitude of what they were proposing. It wasn't just a suicide mission, it was a gamble with the fate of multiple universes hanging in the balance. There's something else you should know, Marcus added, his voice heavy. The calculations suggest that sealing the origin point will have cascading effects. Any human phase shift technology in this universe will cease to function. My people will be trapped wherever we are when it happens. No more jumping between parallel Earths. You'd sacrifice your species' greatest advantage? General Cax asked incredulously. To stop the void swimmers? Yes. Marcus's voice was firm. We've run from this threat for too long. It's time to end it. Commander Varric's form settled into the color of decision. How long until the Pathfinder is ready? 24 hours, Pax reported. Assuming the latest modifications hold. Make it 12, Varric ordered. Captain Lizra, begin calculating power diversion sequences for the barrier network. General Cax, I want our entire fleet ready to defend this facility when the barrier powers down. Lieutenant Commander Pax, you'll pilot the Pathfinder. Your quantum processing capabilities make you the only logical choice. I'm going too, Marcus stated. It wasn't a request. You need my experience with phase shift technology, and someone has to initiate the sealing sequence. Varric's form shifted through a spectrum of colors before settling. Agreed. You have 11 hours to finish preparations. After that, we make history, or we watch reality itself unravel. As the others moved to their assigned tasks, Marcus stayed at the dimensional display, studying the convergence point that marked their destination. The legend of the human weapon was about to reach its climax, but not in a way anyone could have predicted. The weapon wasn't Marcus, or humanity's technology, or even the O Collective's crystalline computers. The real weapon was knowledge, and the willingness to sacrifice everything to use it. Between the void. The Pathfinder hung in space like a crystalline dream, its hybrid architecture catching starlight in ways that defied conventional physics. Inside its control chamber, Lieutenant Commander Pax's form pulsed with pre-launch calculations while Marcus made final adjustments to the phase shift core. Barrier power diversion ready on your mark, Captain Lizra's voice came through the quantum comm. Her consciousness was spread across the entire defense network, coordinating the immense power requirements of their plan. Fleet in defensive formation, General Cax reported. Though I still don't know what we're supposed to defend against if those things break through. Just keep the base intact for 17 minutes, Marcus replied, his fingers dancing across the crystalline interface. That's all we need. Commander Varric's voice joined the channel. All preparations are complete. Lieutenant Commander Pax, begin final launch sequence. The Pathfinder's hybrid core hummed to life, its human and O collective technologies working in perfect harmony for the first time. Marcus felt the vibration through the deck plates, a sensation that existed somewhere between sound and quantum probability. Ready for phase shift, Pax announced, her crystalline form glowing with concentrated energy. Marcus, are you certain about the coordinates? Marcus checked the dimensional readings one final time. The ripple pattern was clear now, all disturbances in the fabric of reality pointing to a single nexus in the void between universes. Their target. As certain as we can be, he replied. Initiate power diversion. Throughout O collective space, the barrier network dimmed as energy was redirected to the Pathfinder. Every crystalline processor, every quantum core, every defense station contributed their power to what was about to happen. Barrier at 60% strength and falling, Lizra reported, her voice strained. Multiple void incursions detected, they know something's happening. Now or never, Marcus said. Lieutenant Commander, take us in. Pax's form flared with energy as she interfaced directly with the ship's systems. The Pathfinder's crystalline lattice began to vibrate at frequencies that shouldn't have been possible in normal space. Phase shift in 3, 2, 1. Reality split. There was no other way to describe it. The space around the Pathfinder simply ceased to operate according to any known laws of physics. Marcus felt his human consciousness stretch to its limits as the ship entered a domain that defied description. Pax, he called out, barely able to form words in this impossible space. Status? The lieutenant commander's crystalline form was a beacon of coherence in the chaos. Maintaining structural integrity. Quantum matrix stable. But Marcus, look. Around them, the void between universes revealed itself. It was a space of pure possibility, where the laws of multiple realities overlapped and contradicted each other. And moving through it, vast beyond comprehension, were the void swimmers. Now, finally, Marcus saw them clearly. They weren't creatures in any conventional sense. They were living equations, mathematical impossibilities given form in the one domain where impossibility was the only rule. They see us, Pax reported, her voice filled with awe and terror. They're calculating us. The void swimmers began to converge on the Pathfinder, their non-Euclidean forms twisting space itself as they moved. But Pax's natural quantum processing capabilities kept them just ahead of the entity's attempts to solve their existence. There. Marcus pointed to a distortion in the mathematical chaos. The nexus point. Everything converges there. The Pathfinder surged forward, its hybrid core channeling power that would have torn a conventional ship apart. The void swimmers followed, their calculations becoming more aggressive, more focused. Barrier failure imminent, Lizra's voice crackled through the quantum comm, distorted by the strange physics of this place. You have 3 minutes before full collapse. Marcus activated the sealing device, a combination of human phase shift technology and collective crystalline computing that had never been tested outside theoretical models. Pax, get us as close as you can. We'll only have one shot at this. Their calculations are intensifying, Pax warned. They're trying to prove we can't exist here. If they succeed. She didn't need to finish. In this realm, mathematical proof was physical law. If the void swimmers could prove they couldn't exist here, they would simply cease to be. The Pathfinder reached the nexus point, a singularity where the membrane between realities was worn threadbare. This was where the void swimmers had first broken through, where they had first tasted the possibility of other realms. Sealing sequence initiated, Marcus announced. Lieutenant Commander, prepare for. The ship shuddered as one of the void swimmers made contact. Reality itself seemed to scream as two fundamentally incompatible forms of existence tried to occupy the same mathematical space. Hull integrity failing, Pax reported, her form flickering with strain. The quantum matrix can't handle direct contact. Marcus watched in horror as crystalline lattices began to crack under mathematical stresses they were never designed to endure. The sealing device was only halfway through its sequence. They needed more time. That's when he understood what had to happen. Pax, he said quietly, I need you to eject the command module and get clear of the nexus. Her form pulsed with surprise. What? No, we both need to. The sealing device has to be triggered from here, he cut her off. But someone needs to survive to tell humanity what happened. To tell them it's over, that they don't have to run anymore. Marcus, no. That's an order, Lieutenant Commander. He managed a smile. Besides, my consciousness isn't quantum-based like yours. I was never meant to survive this space anyway. Before she could protest further, Marcus initiated the command module separation sequence. The crystalline pod containing Pax ejected from the Pathfinder, carrying her to a safer distance from the Nexus. Barrier collapse in 30 seconds, Lizra's voice came through, weaker now. Marcus turned his attention to the sealing device. The void swimmers surrounded the ship now, their impossible geometries pressing in from all sides. But they had made a crucial mistake. In trying to prove his existence impossible, they had given him exactly what he needed, a direct connection to the mathematical fabric of their domain. "You want to calculate me?" he whispered. "Calculate this." He initiated the final sequence, but not the one they had planned. Instead, he fed the void swimmer's own mathematical proofs back into the sealing device, creating a recursive loop that used their own calculations against them. The nexus point began to collapse, but not through brute force. It was collapsing because the void swimmers themselves were proving it couldn't exist. "Marcus." Pax's voice came through the failing comm system. "What are you doing?" "Telling a better story," he replied. The legend of the human weapon was never about destruction. It was about understanding. About seeing the patterns that connect everything, and knowing when to break them. The Pathfinder's systems failed one by one as the recursive calculations reached critical mass. The void swimmers, caught in their own mathematical trap, began to fade from existence, not destroyed, but proved impossible by their own logic. In the last moments before the Nexus collapsed completely, Marcus sent one final message through the quantum comm: "Tell humanity, they can stop running now. It's time to come home." The Nexus point collapsed, taking the Pathfinder with it. Throughout collective space, the barrier network surged back to full power, stronger than ever, reinforced by the very mathematics that had threatened to tear reality apart. Lieutenant Commander Pax's command module was recovered an hour later. The data she brought back would keep both human and collective scientists busy for generations. The nature of reality itself had been rewritten that day, not through weapons or power, but through understanding. The legend of the human weapon had its final chapter. But it wasn't the story of a weapon at all. It was the story of a bridge between species, between ways of thinking, between realities themselves. And somewhere, in the infinite possibilities of the multiverse, that bridge would always exist, a testament to what could be achieved when different forms of consciousness work together to protect existence itself. In the end, the greatest weapon wasn't technology, or mathematics, or even sacrifice. It was the ability to see beyond the boundaries that divided universes, species, and minds, and the courage to reach across them. The end.